Throughout history, the men and women who lead us with new concepts, new ideas, help us all to move forward in thought toward brighter tomorrows. And now, Meetings with Remarkable People with your host, Jesse Sterling.
Welcome to Meetings with Remarkable People. I'm Jesse Sterling. We're taping at NTV Studios in St. John's, Newfoundland, Labrador. Today's guest is a legend. Legendary motivational speaker, legendary success coach, best-selling author, in fact holds the Guinness Book of World Records for most best-selling books at the same time. He's changed the world, and he's here right now to maybe change your life. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jack Canfield.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What are your first impressions of St. John's? I know you just really arrived.
Well, so far I like it. First of all, it was sunny today, so I like that part of it.
Oh, it's sunny every day here.
That's not what I heard. But I would say I like the people a lot. Everyone seems to be really friendly, polite, and engaging. Really, I feel like I'm at home already. I did not know so much about the oil industry. I thought it was all fishing, so that was a whole new. We're driving by the harbor. I'm seeing all those boats. I go, those don't look like fishing boats. They're not. They supply the oil rigs out in the ocean and so forth. So I've been getting a lot of information about what goes on here, and I love the houses, especially downtown, all the houses that are next to each other, and all the bright colors are painted, and so it's very colorful, and I'm having a good time.
And tourism is setting all-time records too. It's this little gem in North America that slowly people are discovering. And I want my audience to discover you. And let's start right at the beginning of Jack Canfield's life. You're born in Texas.
I was.
What was your upbringing like?
Well, I was born in Texas. My father was in the Air Force during World War II, but we actually moved fairly quickly. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Florida. And when we were 6, we settled in Wheeling, West Virginia. So I grew up kind of around coal mines and steel mills and all of that. And my father was a workaholic. My mother was an alcoholic. So there was a lot of tension in the family. But I was fortunate enough, I had a rich aunt who actually sent me to a private school for a few years, which allowed me to get into Harvard. I think more for my football than for my academic. I always say I graduated from the half of the class at Harvard that made the top half possible. But it wasn't too bad because they were all pretty smart people there. And it was interesting for me growing up. I think West Virginia was a great place, probably like St. John's in the sense that I say it's a great place to be from because everybody knew everybody. If you weren't in school at 2 o'clock, someone said, "Aren't you Ellen Canfield's boy? Shouldn't you be in school?" And that's not the truth. If you live in like Los Angeles or New York, you don't get that kind of community that really cares, I think, as we all did. I felt safe, and the community took care of me, and it was a fun place to grow up.
I suppose moving around a lot, I moved around a lot as a youth, you become a little more extroverted and you don't have a chance or a choice to be shy, or you're going to be sitting alone in the lunchroom.
That's right. I think it makes you comfortable wherever you go. And I also got a sense that, I meet a lot of people that grew up in the same town, went to the local college, and they've never been out of the town. And I feel like I'm a world citizen. You know, I feel comfortable pretty much anywhere I go.
So you're a young man, you're at Harvard, playing football. When did you start to get an inkling of, maybe I want to write? I like this whole success principle. I like the whole motivational positivity aspect of life.
Well, I was majoring in Chinese history at Harvard. I thought I was going to go into the State Department and be a diplomat. And then I took Chinese as a language, and I thought, I'm going to reconsider this. It's really a hard language. But what changed it for me was my senior year. Someone said, you need to take this course called SOCREL 10, Social Relations 10, and it's an easy A. I went, I need an easy A, I'll go take it. And turns out what it really was a group of people sitting around a room, not much bigger than the studio, all talking to each other about their feelings and what was going on and relationships and communication skills and their goals and their dreams, and that was totally new. And I ended up going, I love this. I want to grow up and do this. Well, I was a little too late to get into graduate school in psychology, but I did get into education, and I taught for a few years and became more interested in why kids weren't motivated to learn than I was in teaching history. And so that was really that class plus my first year of teaching when I went, these kids aren't motivated. They didn't believe they could learn. They had low self-esteem. These were all inner city kids in Chicago. And I ran across a guy named W. Clement Stone, who was a self-made multimillionaire worth $600 million in 1967. And he was training people to take the message that anyone could be successful out into the world. So I ended up taking classes at his foundation and became a trainer of achievement motivation. How do you motivate people to achieve more? And then I started training teachers. And then one day this woman said, my husband's company needs what you're doing. I went, company? I don't work in companies. I'm an educator. And the only company I ever worked with, I was a floor sweeper in a General Electric plant between college and graduate school. And I thought, I don't know what I would say to these people. Just go do what you did with us. So I went over and I talked to them about goals and vision and risking and taking action and feedback, and they loved it. And so I started doing corporate trainings, and then I started doing general public trainings. And so the whole thing just kept unfolding. And I always tell people, if you do what you're currently doing, 100% commitment, and then keep following whatever you're interested in, wherever your heart goes, then your life will unfold, sometimes in weird and unpredicted direction. But it's been a wild trip and fun for me.
Well, it seems like there's an interesting combination of being in the moment, but also goal. Goal setting is so important and such a big part of your success formula. So let's talk about goals and let's talk about success. What is success?
Well, I used to define success as being able to do whatever you wanted to do, wherever you wanted to do it, with anyone you wanted to do it, as often as you wanted to do it. And that meant being able to create any goal, any result you wanted. Like you wanted to build a TV studio, you could do that. You want to live in an A-frame in the ocean, in the woods and write poetry, you could do that. And you want to be a millionaire, you could do that. That would be success. I've changed my definition recently to success is fulfilling your soul's purpose. I believe that everybody is born with a unique purpose. Whether that's to make music, to be an artist, to be an engineer, to do mechanical things, to be a healer, to be a doctor. And it's inborn. Like little kid, my brother was a drummer, and he used to sit around like this all the time. You couldn't stop him. It's just what he had to do. One of my daughters she writes, she does poetry, she does songwriting, plays the guitar, she paints, she sculpts, and she's just an artist. And her brother is the absolute opposite. He's got his business degree. He had got his first job out of college, $85,000 a year, working in a financial analyst place. He just bought his first home at 22. I mean, he's just totally super achiever business guy. And so if you don't fulfill that purpose, I don't care how rich you get, how famous you are, how much impact you have, I don't think you really are successful. And so the first step is you got to figure out, well, who am I? What am I really about? What do I really want to accomplish? And once you do that and tap into that, then if you set goals to fulfill that, and this is why I said purpose before goals, because if you set goals based on ego and greed, what happens, you can get to the top of the ladder and realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. And your whole life was spent pursuing something that wasn't really what you were meant to do. You see all these people get into their 40s and 50s and go, I don't feel fulfilled. I'm not happy. Maybe I missed it. And I don't want people to miss who they are and what they're supposed to do. So my life purpose is to inspire and empower people to live their highest vision in a context of love and joy. So I inspire with stories like the Chicken Soup for the Soul stories. I empower them through the tools of the workshops I lead on how to manifest your dreams. And I want them to live their highest vision and to do it in a place that's loving and joyful, not hurting other people along the way.
What a beautiful vision. And I love what you said about the ladder on the right wall. I've heard it before. People say they're chopping a path through the jungle and they need to sharpen their machete better. And if they just chopped harder, and they're making their path. And really, if you get a 10,000 foot perspective, you realize, oops, wrong jungle.
Right.
Wrong jungle.
Right.
So I'll ask the basic question of how do you know what your life's purpose is? Some people it's obvious and they know, your brother, the drummer. What if you don't know?
Two things you can do. Number one, I call it a joy review. I believe that when you're on purpose, you're happy, you're feeling joy. And there's an internal guidance system, just like a GPS in a car, that says on course or off course. So look back over your life. There's a story in my book, The Success Principles, about a girl named Julie Lapley. She was a senior at Ohio State University, and she was miserable. And she thought she was supposed to be a veterinarian because she loved animals. And everyone said, oh, you love animals, go be a vet. And she loved animals, but she hated biochemistry, she hated biology, she hated anatomy. She liked touching them and handling them, but she didn't like all the chemistry and biology. And then she said, well, when have I been happiest? And she did a joy review, and she realized whenever I was in a leadership position, I was leader of a student council, I was leading in a sorority, I was leading here. And so she went to Ohio State and said, I want to stay another year or two and get a degree in leadership. Can I do that? They said, well, we don't have a degree in leadership. She said, well, can we create one? So they did some journalistic courses, some speaking classes, some communication courses, some psychology courses, and she ended up with a degree in leadership, first one ever. I met her when she was 26. She was working in the Pentagon teaching leadership skills to military guys that were colonels and majors and captains and so forth. So find out what makes you happy. When are you happiest? Just look back over your life. The second thing you can do, this is a little exercise I have in my book, it's real simple. Ask yourself, what are 2 qualities that if my best friends were describing me, they'd say I am, and that I think I am. So I'm loving, and I'm joyful. So those are my 2 qualities. My wife, it's spontaneous and what you call it, authentic. Like what you see is what you get. She's not going to sugarcoat anything. If we're walking along the beach somewhere, she might just take all her clothes off and jump in the ocean. You know, it doesn't matter to her. And for me, I'm a little more shy than that. But that's her 2 qualities. And then you say, how do I most love expressing those qualities? So for me, it's inspiring people and empowering people, teaching, basically, writing. And for you, it might be doing interviews or building the station or whatever it might be. And
so
then,
it's pretty close to the top of my joy review right now.
Yeah.
Doing a great interview with a world-class, intelligent person.
Yeah, there you go. You're having fun, I can tell from the smile on your face, and so am I. And then the last thing you do is you say, if the world was perfect, according to me, what would be happening? And some people might say everyone's living an ecologically sustainable lifestyle. Someone else might say everyone's taking 100% responsibility for life. Someone else might say everyone's kind and generous. Now you put those 3 together, because how you think the world would be if it were perfect, you have some role in creating that, or we wouldn't even care about it. So that caring is inbuilt as well. So now I can say my 2 qualities are love and joy. I love to inspire and empower, and I want a world where everyone's living their highest vision. So I can put that together into my life purpose. For someone else, it might be using my discipline and my will to train students to become more self-responsible for themselves in life. And so that's another way you can go at it. But the basic idea is we all have one. And if you're not happy, you're not doing it. And so examine, is it my environment? Is it the job? Is it my activities? Is it that I'm saying no to things I want to say yes to? And then once you've got that, then you can say, okay, now, how do I structure a life around that? I could be an author, a trainer, a classroom teacher, you know, a coach, many different professions that would allow me to fulfill that purpose.
It seems like all that brilliant self-analysis, self-reflection, self-awareness has one theme in common. It's self.
Yes.
The voice, the idea has to come from within you, from within your heart. And I guess it's not your parents telling you what to do, your teacher telling you what to do,
right?
Society telling you what to do. Only we can discover our true joy.
It's true. And I think most of us grew up, our parents thought they knew what they wanted us to be because they wanted us to be happy. You know, they thought, be a doctor, be a lawyer, go to school, whatever, you're going to be happiest. My middle son is a hip hop singer. College was not for him, you know? And so I told him, I just want you to be happy. If you're happy doing what you love, then you don't need Byzantine history and learn Latin. And so, but a lot of parents are afraid, oh my God, what's your backup job? What if it doesn't work, you know? And you have to trust your children and trust yourself, and trust that I believe we are born with the ability to navigate through life really, really well. What happens is we get shut down. I was sharing a quote in the car on the way over here. Buckminster Fuller once said, he was a genius, had 55 honorary doctorates, including one from Harvard, and he said, everyone's born a genius. Some people are just damaged less, meaning they haven't given away their power to, you know, the people that the church, the school teacher, the parent, the uncle that says you should be this, but instead they listen to their own inner voice.
Beautiful. So let's talk about goal setting now. We have our inner voice. Maybe we've got an idea now of the life we want to create, the profession we want to enter into. How does one get from point A to point B? How do you manifest dreams to make them reality? Well,
first of all, you have to decide where point B is. So the subtitle of my book is How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. So I know where I am. I know I want to get here. But what is here? Most people really have never thought that out. So I would encourage people to go through 7 areas of your life. You know, finances, job and career, health and fitness, fun and recreation, what I call personal, which is like, you know, what are the things you do just because you want to do them that are yours to do? Spiritual growth, emotional growth, courses you want to take, places you want to go just because you want to go. And relationships is another area. What kind of relationships? Do you want to have a big family? Do you want to heal your relationship with your mom? And then finally, philanthropy. What contribution do you want to make to the world? Because I've never met anyone that was really happy that wasn't doing something that contributed to somebody else's life. And then decide if it could have, money was no issue, and you could have anything you wanted, what would be going on in each of those areas of your life? And then when you get a picture of that, now let's make it into a specific measurable goal. Because I want to live in a big house on the ocean is not a goal. That's a wish, a hope, and intention. But I will own a 3,000 square foot house on, St. John's Island or whatever, or Hawaii or what. That's specific by a certain date. And I always tell people, put the time of day in there. I want to weigh 185 pounds or however many kilos that translates into by June 30th, 2014 at 5 p.m. Because the goal has to be where someone else can come over and look at it and validate that it actually happened. So 5 o'clock you show up, I weigh 185 or I don't. It's that simple. So how much by when? Once I've described that, then I can set, well, what are the milestones I have to meet along the way to reach that goal in 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be.
Almost a timeline to get you along the way.
Yeah, now the trick is it rarely unfolds in the same time frame as you think. It just doesn't do that very often. But by having timelines and having goals and having intention, it gives us momentum and direction. And then often things will come in from the side we weren't even imagining. Like when I was in the movie The Secret, that wasn't something I was planning. It just kind of showed up. And it took me in a whole new direction, which was even better than the direction I was going at the time. So you have to be open to that. But had I not been focusing on the goal to be a best-selling author, to sell 1 billion books and all this kind of stuff, there's no way that ever would have come into my life.
I love your tip too, very practical. Carrying your goals around with you. Something makes it more manifest and tangible, writing it down and referencing it every day.
I suggest write your goals down and review them regularly. Now, once a week is probably enough for most people, but I put mine on 3x5 cards, and I take them out of my pocket. I don't have them right now. I left them in my hotel room, but I normally have them with me, or I take them out and show you. And so I have like 21 goals every year, 7 areas, 3 goals. And so I look at it, I read my goal, then I say my affirmation. I'm happily celebrating weighing 185 pounds. Then I close my eyes. I look at what I would see in the mirror if I weighed 185 pounds. I feel the feeling I would feel, then I go to the next card. That whole process might take me 5 minutes to go through, but if I do that every day, it's like re-vectoring yourself back on course, back on course, back on course, back on course. Because we today are so pulled off by all the distractions. There's God knows how many TV channels you can watch. There's your church is calling you, your parents are calling you, your friends are calling you. Everything's trying to get your attention. And we have to make sure that we're the one using our will to stay on focus to create what we want, not be. And I tell people, if you don't set goals, you will end up being used by people who do. You'll work for them, you'll become part of their scenario. And so it's important to have goals.
My grandfather, Jeff Sterling, who's a Hall of Fame broadcaster, his most important thing he taught me is you gotta have a plan, man. These people that go through life complaining about their miserable lot, the quote, most men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Right.
So do you believe if you can conceive it, you can achieve it?
Yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of Napoleon Hill, I think, who first said that. What the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man and woman can achieve. And so what happens is, for me, I know it's true. I mean, my favorite story to illustrate that is I set a goal when I was working for W. Clement Stone to make $100,000 in 1 year. I was making $8,000 as a high school teacher. That was like 12 times my income. And he said, I want you to set a goal that's so big that if you achieve it, you'll know it's only because of what I taught you. I said, okay. So I just pulled $100,000 out of the air. Today everyone goes $1 million. And so I did what I just told you. Every day I would close my eyes and I'd visualize a $100,000 income. I'd visualize the lifestyle I'd lead. I then found a big piece of green paper about like that. I drew a $100,000 bill on it, put it up on the ceiling every morning. I'd wake up, it's the first thing I would see. I'd close my eyes again and visualize. And nothing happened for about 30 days. And then I'm in the shower and I had a $100,000 idea for the first time in my life. I said, I have a book called 100 Ways to Enhance Self-Concept in the Classroom. Every time that sells, I make 25 cents. That was my royalty. If I could sell 400,000 books, I would have $100,000. So now I had a vehicle, a plan, a strategy. And it took me about another month before I was in my grandmother's bathroom and I saw something called the Reader's Digest and said 8 million readers in like 37 languages. And I thought, wow, if 8 million people knew about my book, certainly 400,000 people would buy it. So when you set this goal and you start visualizing and believing in it, what happens is that you open up a part of your brain called the reticular system. Like right now, you're not aware of what you feel in your right foot, but as soon as I say it, could you feel it?
Yeah.
Well, where was that information going? It was coming up your leg, up your spinal column into your brain, and it was being filtered out by your reticular activating system in the back of your brain. Acts like the switchboard operator here at the studio. If they called and tried to get you right now, they wouldn't let them through because you're on air.
Yeah.
And so your brain basically has all these signals coming in from the outside, eyes, ears, body, and it has to filter out probably 95% of it. How does it do that? It focuses on letting in anything that will help you achieve a goal, anything that matches your self-image, and anything that will fulfill an immediate need you have. Like if you're driving your car and you need to go to the bathroom, you start noticing gas stations and restaurants before you weren't noticing that. So what happens is we want to open up the reticular system by focusing on our goal, and then all the resources and ideas start to come. And to make a long story short, my wife came up with an idea. We were both visualizing this because she was part of the team. And she said, if we had a bookstore and you sold the book, we could get $3 profit for book. We'd only have to sell 33,000 books. That's a lot easier. So we started the mail order bookstore, had one product, my book. And then along the way, she said, people have already proven they buy one book, maybe they'll buy 5 or 9, let's add some other books. So I had an 8-page catalog by the end with 32 products, and that year we made $92,328. Now it wasn't 100,000, but none of us were complaining. And then she said, do you think it'll work for $1 million? I said, let's try. Put a $1 million bill. And if I had my slideshow here, I could show you. I have a check written to me for $1,138,000, 328 cents, whatever it was. And the point being that it came true. And so anything can happen. Most people don't realize it. What you put your attention on, what you believe, because you said the key word, you've got to believe it. And a lot of people go, well, how can I believe it? I'm working in a coal mine, I don't have a college education. I met a copper miner who's now making $1 million a month, working in a multi-level marketing company, never went to college, but he believed it was possible. A belief is a choice. You can just choose to believe this or choose to believe that. And most people choose to believe their current situation rather than believe their vision. But it's simply a matter of discipline, saying, I'm going to choose to believe that, I'm going to act as if it's real, I'm going to visualize it, affirm it, and take action as if it were going to happen.
And that's the basis of The Secret, is it not? This wonderful, inspirational movie that's changed lives. And of course the book, which you have a part in, both media. Is that the essence of The Secret? If you can visualize it in your mind, it will manifest in reality? In short, if you can conceive it, you can achieve it?
There's really a third step. You have to first come up with the idea and believe it, or conceive it, then believe it. But then you have to create what we call a vibrational match to receive it. What most people don't realize is that your energy, your state of emotional being, is a vibration. We walk in the room and go, oh, bad vibes in there. So what are we referring to? It's a negativity. People are angry, they're uptight, they're hostile, whatever it might be. Walk in the room, everyone's loving and happy. It's like good vibes. So you're sending out just like this television station is sending out a signal through the airwaves with no wires, through the air. You are sending out a signal by the thoughts you think. And so those thoughts create a feeling. And the feeling is really what generates the result. It's like the fuel in your car. You can have the coolest car in the world. You can have a Porsche, a Mazda, the latest Toyota Avalon, whatever it might be. It's not going to go without fuel in it. And so the fuel is the emotions. And what most people don't realize, they'll go, yeah, I want a new car. And then they go, but I can't afford it. And the emotion is, I'll never have that. The emotion is resignation. If you're judging other people, if you're angry a lot, you are pushing away that which you want. Because if I'm pushing away you, I'm actually pushing away energy to all the things that want to come into my life. It's like a conveyor belt. So you have to be open, loving, accepting, forgiving, joyful. Like we say, what can you do to be more appreciative? The more you appreciate, the more you're given to appreciate. The more joyful you are, the more joy flows into your life. The more you love you give, the more love you get. I think the Beatles said that. So the point is, that's the piece that a lot of people miss. And the last thing The Secret said in the movie, but was really only like a couple sentences, is you've got to take action. You are going to start receiving inspirations. You're going to get ideas. I mean, your grandfather had an idea to start this television station. And the fact was, it was an idea, but if he didn't act on it, if he didn't buy a piece of land, build a building, buy some cameras, all those actions, nothing would have happened. So you literally, when you get an inspiration, you have to act. And that's where a lot of people don't, because they're afraid. They're afraid of rejection, they're afraid of looking foolish, they're afraid of failure. You have to overcome your fear, and that's where the belief comes in again.
The belief. I want to jump, beautiful description of The Secret. Want to jump to what most people might know you for, the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. I believe they've sold 127 million copies around the world.
It's actually up to 500 million.
What?
Yep.
Got to update the Wikipedia page.
It's called China. 315 million sold in China.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the origin story of Chicken Soup. Most of us have read stories and laughed or cried to them. How did this come about?
Well, how it came about was I was always a storyteller. In my classrooms, I learned early on as a teacher. When I was telling a story, the kids were like this. When I'm teaching concept, kids are like this. So I learned a lot of stories to illustrate the points. And I was giving, it was about a month period where I'd be out teaching teachers at the time, and people would say, that story about the Boy Scout, is that in a book anywhere? That story about the boy and the puppy, is that in a book anywhere? My daughter used to need it. My Salesforce. I go, no, it should be in a book. So I'm coming home on a plane from Boston to LA, where I was living at the time, and it was like, I'm being told, put these stories in a book. So I made a list of all the stories I knew. It was about 70. And then Mark Victor Hansen came in a little later in the project, and he added 30 more, and we ended up with 101. And that's how that came to be. And these were all stories I'd been telling, and Mark had been telling in our seminars, so they all were like tried and true, tested, we knew they worked. The title's interesting. The title came, we didn't have a title. We had to go to New York to try to sell the book. And it was like, Warm and Fuzzy Stories. What do we call this? So Mark and I are both meditators. So we decided we would meditate. We would ask a higher power to give us a title. So on the third day, I'm sitting in my bedroom on a chair, meditating like this, and I saw this hand come out on an imaginary chalkboard in my head, like the kind in school. It just wrote Chicken Soup, big letters. And I said, Chicken Soup? What does that have to do with my book? And the voice said, to the hand said, when you were sick as a child, your grandmother gave you chicken soup. I said, but this is not a book about sick people. And the voice said, people's spirits are sick. They are living in resignation, fear, and hopelessness. This was 93, big recession in America, Gulf War going on, first Gulf War. And so I thought, chicken soup for the spirit, chicken soup for the soul. And I got goosebumps. I mean, my whole body just lit up. Told my wife, she got goosebumps. Told Mark, he got goosebumps. Our literary agent got goosebumps. Went to New York, talked to 21 acquisition editors, nobody got goosebumps. It took us another year to sell the book.
Wow.
Everyone said, people don't read short stories, you guys aren't famous, it's not edgy, it's not sexy, it's not, whatever. And so we went the next year to a convention of booksellers. There are 4,000 publishers that have booths to sell their books to bookstore owners. And we stopped at everyone unless they only did maps, like, Rand McNally or something. Would you buy our book? Let me tell you about it. And eventually someone said yes. And next year we sold 1.3 million books.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And then is off to the races.
Off to the races.
Just a couple minutes left of our conversation, believe it or not. Wonder if you have any final advice for our viewers out there.
My advice would be this: if you want to be successful, spend a little time studying success. We study how to cook, we study how to be a parent. Very few people say, how do I study to be successful? Read some books, take some seminars, watch some DVDs, go to YouTube, whatever, and really learn the science of success. There is a science. It's called, like, there's a combination lock. If you know the numbers in the right order, doesn't care if you went to high school, doesn't care if you're smart, doesn't care if you're white or black or rich. It just cares that you got the numbers in the right order. And you can learn how to do that. My book, The Success Principles, The Secret movie, The Secret book, all of these contain numbers that will allow you to achieve your goals. And nobody should die with their dream inside them. Everybody has the capacity to fulfill their dream. Walt Disney said, nobody's given a dream that they don't have the capacity and the ability to fulfill. And I totally believe that.
How do people get in touch with you or learn more about Jack Canfield and your training?
www.jackcanfield.com. It's very simple. Canfield. Go to my website.
One of my favorite quotes I've read from you is, it's none of our business what other people think about us.
Right.
What does that mean? Like, how would you describe that?
It means
felt liberating to me.
It means I quit worrying about what you think about me and what your reaction is going to be, and start doing what's going to make me happy, not what's going to make you happy. The day you make that choice is the day you become liberated. You're free from guilt, you're free from other people's approval, and you start living for your own approval and your own joy. And so what you think about me is none of my business.
Well, thank you so much for being so generous of time and spirit.
My pleasure.
And thank you, dear viewer, for watching. This has been another remarkable meeting with another remarkable person. Have a safe, happy, and healthy rest of your day.